Today we're going to be talking about growing tomatoes in what probably now is the traditional style of tomatoes, is actually growing them in the ground. Remember, if you like this video, give it the old thumbs up, and if you like my channel, please subscribe. Okay, so I want you to think about tomatoes like teenagers. They kind of want their independence. That's important to them. They want to be a little bit left alone, but they also want to know that they've got support if it's still there when they need it, and and that there's always food in the fridge and the cupboard for that late night snack. So I've been out and brought some new tomatoes. The first thing we're going to cover is how to plant a tomato, and I only recently learned this, or proved this to be true, with these guys here and these guys over here, is that when you buy a tomato, you'll see that it's got these low branches here, then the sort of branches start there. So when we plant a tomato, people tend to plant them so that they're on top of the ground, and it's probably a bit hard to see, but if you think about when people grow tomatoes for sale, they put the seeds on the top of the ground or just in the ground, which means the roots are just here on the ground, and as the tomato moves around in the wind like it is today, it pulls on those roots, right? So what you want to do is bury it deep in the ground. So tomatoes are very good like this. So what you would do is you would get your tomato, whether it's it's sort of a healthy one like this, or it's a bit smaller, but what you want to do is clip off these bottom shoots here, right? And when you're going to plant it, you're going to plant it up to here, buried in the ground up to here. What it means is where you've cut these shoots off or pulled them off, they're going to grow another set of roots. So you've got this set of roots already down low in the ground, and this set of roots high in the ground. So that way, that much of the plant is in the ground, and it's really stable with a really good root system. If you get that, then you're about halfway there to growing really good tomatoes. So lesson one, bury them deep. Let's talk briefly about soils, because you do the best with what you've got. If your soil looks like this, it's sort of clumpy and you have to break it apart, right? Too much clay in the soil. You need to add this, dig it through. If your soil's a bit like this, which is a lot of cheap potting mix, it's a bit sandy and it drains a bit too much. Well, if that's the case, then you need to add this. Well, you need to add something like this. This is alpaca poo, which I've got, but also got cattle and I've got horses. So dig a bit of poo through, which holds the moisture, but don't make it that it's too hard that it becomes clay like this, because you've got to dig it through. So tomatoes like their soil to be well drained, but not a desert and not a clay pot, so too wet. So just think, I'm going to water them, it's going to run out during the day. I'm going to plant them deep. We've got good well drained soil, and now don't get this wrong, I'll hit you with a cucumber. The other thing we're going to do is we're going to spread them out. Think like teenagers, each having their own room. So put them around the garden, don't grow them all in a nice line, don't bunch them all up together. Spread them out around your garden so they've got some independence and some breeze coming around them. One of the things that tomatoes don't like is a lot of moisture. So when plants are rubbing on each other, that creates moisture, that disease moves from one plant to the other. So spread them out, get them around your garden, don't have them all in a nice line or a nice big bunch. Be a bit radical for a change. Come on down here with me. Now, these are some of my little tomatoes growing in alpaca poo, but tomatoes really only need 12 leaves to live or to grow healthily. So one of the things that I want you to do is once a week you're going to give your tomatoes a little prune. It's only going to take you a couple of minutes. It's an easy thing to remember. It's kind of like making little bonsais. So what you want to do is, so we planted them, remember we planted them low. Now what you're going to try and do is get a good 30 or centimetres up with no branches on. So each week you're going to come along and you're going to snip off the lower branches. So there are still plenty of branches at the top here, and you can be kind of harsh. So see now, I've got my tomato from there to there, there's got no branches. And as he grows, I'm going to keep nipping off these bottom ones and get them up the top. The other thing you want to do, so you're going to take off the bottom ones, and then you'll see that there's these little guys here that grow out in the middle, and you can just pinch them off. The reason that you do that is because rain comes, or your sprinkler comes, or your water comes, and it hits the ground and it bounces up little bits of mud or little bits of dirt and compost and so on, and that starts to create a mould, or black spot starts to grow. So you want this nice stalk up off the ground, away from the ground, away from any splashing water, and you can put a bit of compost around if you need be. And you've got this nice protected trunk, and the leaves are now up off the ground away from any water and mud. I've grown some tomatoes the way I used to grow tomatoes, just to show you how to grow bad tomatoes. So remember I talked about teenagers wanting to know that they've got good support. This is what bad support looks like. I thought I was so clever when I invented these. Irrigation pipe, and these are just old hay bale strings tying my tomatoes up, because wherever the tomatoes grew I could put this up really quickly and get these on. Problem with this sort of structure is that when the wind blows, the tomatoes are moving. That's not such a bad thing. But if you didn't grow your tomatoes deep, of course what happens is, as the wind blows, it's pulling on your tomato and pulling out the root system. So like a teenager, you want good solid support, like a parent or a loved one that can give them a really good hug when they need. Not this. This is not good parenting. You can have a support that's like this. So this is just a bit of Rio that I got at the local garage sale, all of $2 it cost me. So you can go something like this, as long as you've got it pegged in and it's solid, and they're not going to blow around in the wind or move around too much. And then you can just use a bit of string and tie them to it. So something like this, and this is probably what I use now in all the different spots, because it's really cheap to pick this stuff up. It's just a bit of fencing, a bit of Rio out of some concrete somewhere. So something like this that you can tie them to. Fantastic, good solid base. Remember I said that your tomatoes are like teenagers. They want a healthy support, but they want to know that there's food in the cupboard. So if they come in late at night or they need a late night snack, it's always there. Tomatoes, the same. Alright, once a week, all I want you to do is get a bit of liquid fertiliser, whichever sort you use, and just put it on the base, just where those roots are starting to grow and get stronger.